Adrian reveals concerns over the 2026 regulations, Red Bull's power struggles continue, and Lando talks about the pressure from challenging for the title. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get straight into the latest F1 news. Williams team principal James Vowles has warned that the 2025 Formula One season will prove tricky for the British outfit as it focuses on the new regulations for the following year. F1 cars will be overhauled from 2026 onwards, with smaller dimensions, reduced weight, simplified aerodynamics, and toned-down downforce and drag. Having failed to finish a race in the top 5 since 2017, other than the controversial 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, as it struggled financially under the Williams family, the Grove-based team has been getting the budget it needs from new owners Dorilton Capital and catching up with rival squads in terms of both performance and infrastructure. 2026 will therefore be a major opportunity for Williams to leap up the pecking order with drivers Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, and the team is ready to sacrifice the upcoming campaign to do so. It's the message that Alex and Carlos both know 2025 will be a struggle, I think Vowles told Autosport. It's not that you're going to see us moving forward, we're going to move back a little bit. And if we are, I'm okay with that, because it simply says that I'm investing at the right rate for 26 compared to those around me. That's what we should be expecting from it. We are going to compromise 25. That doesn't mean we'll be 10th, but it's going to be a hard year. Following a 2023 season in which Williams narrowly beat AlphaTauri, now RB, for 7th position, with 28 points to 25 in the Constructors' Championship, the team struggled early this year with just 4 points before the summer break. However, its campaign really took off in Monza and Baku, with Albon and teammate Franco Colapinto both finishing in the top 8 in Azerbaijan, which is down to the ponderous FW46, finally losing crucial weight. I think we were fortunate to finish 7th last year, Vowles added. RB was bloody quick at the end of the year, and it was really just a matter of one strategic call, almost, that defined who finished ahead in the championship. We still finished 7th. This year's car was performing. I think I was quite open in how overweight we were. Just take that time off and you'll see that we shouldn't be where we are in the championship. Now that we've had the performance, taking the weight off the car, we're back to where I would have expected us to be, which is therefore not a step backwards. Vowles now advocates for a trial and error approach in the next 12 months, as he considers this to be the best way to learn amidst the 2026 technical revolution. We are trying to do leaps, not steps forward, not inching forward, not minimal gains or marginal gains even, but leaps in the technology and what we're doing, the Briton explained. And in doing so, we're going to trip ourselves up. And I'm comfortable with that, because we can't unlearn what we've learned. I give you almost a guarantee, unfortunately, we're going to trip ourselves again. I don't think it'd be in 25, for what it's worth. I think we've got enough of a good pathway to lead us there. I think in 26, what we're asking of the organization is more than we can deliver, so we've got to make it fit or perhaps trip up a little bit along the way. Adrian Newey has shed light on his concerns about the F1 2026 regulations, particularly on the power unit rulebook. The F1 2026 season will see Formula One introduce radically different rules, tearing up the current rulebooks for the start of a new regulation cycle. An unusual facet of the F1 2026 regulations is that the power unit regulations, IEI, the engine was decided upon first, with the criteria of increasing the electrical output relative to the power output of the internal combustion engine to a 50/50 split. To make this happen with the current limitations of electrical generation hybrid systems, the fear has been that F1 2026 cars will be slower around a lap and, critically, may even slow down while going along long straights due to running out of battery power. To combat this, the chassis regulations have been agreed upon with these potential hurdles in mind, leading to the now infamous quote from Red Bull boss Christian Horner, in which he expressed concerns over the possibility of the sport running with Frankenstein cars. Adrian Newey, Red Bull's current chief technical officer, who departs for Aston Martin in 2025, will be assuming technical lead for the Silverstone-based squad when he starts work with Lawrence Stroll's team, and spoke about the challenge facing the teams and manufacturers to make the regulations work for 2026. They're a huge change, he told Autocar following the announcement of his switch to Aston Martin. I mean, I can't remember, it probably has happened at some time in the distant past, but I can't remember the last time we had completely new power unit and chassis regulations at the same time. In reality, the power unit regulations, because there's a much longer lead time associated with power unit research than there is with the chassis side. Then the power unit regulations were fixed quite a few years ago without, in truth, properly considering what chassis regulations were then needed to suit those PU regs. That's something that the FIA, with support from teams, has been battling with since. How it will work out is, in truth, still not clear. With the confirmation of the F1 2026 power unit rules convincing Audi to sign up for F1 as an engine supplier and team owner, as well as attracting Ford to partner with Red Bull powertrains and Honda's full-time return as a supplier for Aston Martin. Newey said there's no doubting the rules have worked to keep the manufacturers happy, but the legendary car designer said he has doubts over the spectacle of Formula One, remaining unconvinced that the new F1 2026 regulations won't detract from the show. The original idea that the FIA wanted was 400 kilowatts from the PU and 400 kilowatts from the hybrid side, the electric machine, he said. They then started to realize that 400 from the electric was too much to be sustainable, in terms of sustainable from lap to lap. So they've reduced that to 350, but even now, there is still a lot of concern that actually the cars will be going significantly slower at the end of straight than at the start of the straight because they just run out of battery. It was a regulation that was brought in really, I think, primarily to keep the existing OEMs, the manufacturers in, and hopefully attract new ones. In that sense, you can argue it's been successful. Audi is coming in. Honda has reversed their decision to exit and are staying in, but what the show and the spectacle will be, I think it's a concern. But Formula One, somehow, seems to have a habit of being all right on the night. While Newey could have opted to stay away from F1 for a few years following confirmation of his pending split from Red Bull after almost 2 decades, the British engineer has put pen to paper to embrace the technical challenge for 2026. But, asked what he would have done if he had a part to play in the rule-making process, Newey said he would have done the opposite and outlined the chassis regulations first and foremost. I think, first of all, the most important thing for Formula One is the individuality of the cars, he said. So if the chassis regulations, which in particular and of course means the aerodynamic regulations, become overly restrictive, then all the cars look the same. If you look at other categories who have kind of gone one make IndyCar, perhaps being the worst example or best example, then they went from a very successful series with many manufacturers in it through to the to then going the one manufacturer route with Dallara. Then everybody runs the same car and public interest waned. You could argue, to an extent, that's also happened in sports cars, at times. I'm not saying necessarily that prescribed aerodynamic performance is the route, but I would have done the opposite. This is the big question of does Formula One need manufacturers, OEMs in the sport or not? Because, to me, the value is in the teams, not the manufacturers. Manufacturers come and go, they change CEOs, who decide suddenly that actually they'd much rather sponsor a tennis tournament than Formula One, and they go off in a different direction. And that happens regularly. We've seen it. The teams themselves, that's their sole livelihood. So, unless they get themselves into deep financial trouble, they're not going to go away. From a spectator point of view, I'm not sure they're that worried about whether it's more fuel efficient or so on and so forth. I also feel, frankly, that the prescribed electric route, which most European governments have gone down, is not the right route. They've done the typical governmental thing of, rather than saying, this is a problem, which I totally agree with, we need to do something to help save the planet, to improve ecology, etc., rather than say, right, this is the target. You OEMs go away and come up with some proposals. They've said, this is what we want and this is what you will do. You will now go fully electric. Don't get me wrong, I think electric definitely has its applications. It's a great technology. It's clearly developing fast. But to say that's the prescribed technology and that's all you can have, without allowing the manufacturers to go away and do the research to come up with alternatives, I don't agree with that. It is very anti-engineer, and it's by no means guaranteed that it's going to produce the right solution in all cases. It won't. Following on from recent departures, the FIA has announced 2 new high-profile signings to its leadership structure. Fresh off the back of some recent departures from the F1 governing body, the FIA has confirmed 2 new names have been signed to its leadership. The FIA has strengthened its leadership team with 2 notable appointments, although these are not direct replacements for the 2 departures confirmed last week. Alberto Villarreal, an experienced figure in the automotive industry, has been named the general manager, while Alessandro Mohamed takes on the role of senior HR director. Villarreal, a Spaniard with a background at Goodyear and other senior leadership positions, will report directly to FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem and Senate President Carmelo Sanz de Barros. He will be responsible for overseeing the organization's operational and financial performance. Villarreal expressed his enthusiasm, stating, "It is an honor to join the FIA at such a pivotal time. I look forward to working with members, the president, the leadership team, and all staff to achieve our shared goals of reform and growth." Mohammed, an Italian, will lead strategic initiatives in human resources, focusing on HR operations and workplace strategies. She most recently worked for Honeywell. She emphasized the importance of people in a successful organization. "The strength of any thriving organization lies in its people. My focus at the FIA will be on fostering a culture of inclusivity and innovation, simplifying processes, and empowering employees to achieve our shared goals." Ben Sulayem welcomed both leaders, saying, "I am delighted to welcome Alberto and Alessandra to the team. With Alberto's vast leadership experience, I am confident he will drive sustainability in our financial performance, governance and operations, and deliver value for our members. Alessandra brings a wealth of HR expertise to the federation. I am confident she will ensure the development of our most precious commodity, our people." These appointments come following several high-profile departures this year. Last week, Luke Skipper, Director of Communications and Public Affairs, and Jacob Banksgaard, Secretary General of Automobile Mobility and Tourism, were confirmed as having left the governing body. Earlier this year, Deborah Mayer stepped down as head of the FIA Women in Motorsport Commission, followed by FIA Sporting Director Steve Nielsen and Single-Seater Technical Director Tim Goss, who have taken new roles in Formula One and VCARB, respectively. Additionally, Head of Commercial Legal Affairs Edward Floyd-Dade, Governance and Regulatory Director Pierre Ketterer, and the FIA's first CEO, Natalie Robin, have also left to pursue new opportunities. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has addressed the power shift which is taking place at the Milton Keynes-based team since the death of co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz. Since Mateschitz' death in October 2022, Oliver Mintzlaff has become managing director of the Red Bull organization. One of his responsibilities is the F1 outfit. However, despite rumors of a power struggle earlier this season, Marko has insisted that team principal Christian Horner is in charge of how the reigning champions operate. As revealed by Marko, though, decisions are still to be made surrounding the F1 team following Mateschitz's passing nearly 2 years ago. The death of Dietrich Mateschitz has, of course, brought changes, Marko told ORF. He was an autocrat. Decisions were made quickly. He was a charismatic entrepreneur with a certain vision and someone who was willing to take risks. Now everything within the organization is being rearranged, where it is not possible to find such a personality as Mateschitz. As a result, he also cannot be replaced by just one person. In terms of structure, Oliver Mintzlaff is responsible for Formula One, amongst other things. He also does soccer, cycling and various other things. Operationally, Christian Horner is responsible. I would say that the final details have not been finalized yet either, because the system is growing. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has addressed the power shift which is taking place at the Milton Keynes-based team since the death of co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz. Since Mateschitz's death in October 2022, Oliver Mintzlaff has become managing director of the Red Bull organization. One of his responsibilities is the F1 outfit. However, despite rumors of a power struggle earlier this season, Marko has insisted that team principal Christian Horner is in charge of how the reigning champions operate. The father of Max Verstappen was convinced that the situation would disrupt the outfit, comments which Marko reveals were not helpful. To silence the former F1 driver, a conversation was held internally with the 52-year-old to ensure everyone was focused on fighting for the titles. Let's put it this way, it didn't help, stated Marko. But internally we sat down together and said, we have to join forces and work together in all areas so we can win this world championship. And also for the future, so that we have a winning car again. Because it's also clear that if we don't give Max Verstappen a car he can win with, then in the long run all those contracts of top drivers have performance-related exit clauses, and Max will then start looking at others, provided he's still having fun. That's another factor that comes into play. He will drive where the best package is always on offer. It has been a year since Max Verstappen won his third F1 title with 6 Grand Prix to spare. Now Verstappen is in a fight this year, and with Red Bull under pressure to deliver him a car to retain his crown. Lando Norris insists he's taking the F1 2024 title fight one race at a time, rather than be stupid by tripping himself with the bigger picture. off the pace of Red Bull in the opening rounds of the championship, McLaren's Miami Grand Prix upgrade vaulted the team into race-winning contention, with the team stringing together a 14-race podium streak, eating into Red Bull's advantage in the standings as both Norris and Oscar Piastri won races. McLaren took control of the Constructors' Championship in Azerbaijan and extended the lead to 41 points at the next race in Singapore. But as they have been making big gains in the team standings, Norris has also slowly been nibbling into Verstappen's lead in the drivers, bringing that down to 52 points, having taken 26 back in the last 4 races alone. Time, though, is not on his side, as only 6 races remain with a total of 180 points in play. Such is Verstappen's advantage. He only needs to finish runner-up in the Grand Prix and sprints to win the title by a point, even if Norris wins every one of the remaining events. For me, the less I can think about it, the better, he said in an interview with The Athletic. It's hard when every question is basically just about that, you know. For me, it's not trying to think of the bigger picture in a way. By doing that and just focusing on one race at a time, or what I have to do tomorrow, then Saturday, then Sunday, I'm not thinking, I need a good weekend this weekend, so I can do this next weekend. It's just stupid to think like that. I think, although the 24-year-old is determined to avoid the title pressure, he admits there is still a smidge more on his shoulders, as there's more at stake. I don't feel like I'm going out now like, oh God, I have to do this because I'm fighting for a championship, he added. I'm not thinking of it like that at all, honestly. It's more just putting that little bit more pressure on making the right decisions at times, knowing that certain decisions maybe have a bit more meaning or can have a bigger meaning. Contesting his 6th season in Formula 1, the 3-time Grand Prix Ice winner believes he has improved as a driver, but that there's more to work on. I'm definitely driving better now than I ever have, he said. You're always adding to that side of it. But you're getting to a point where more is done for the mental side and how you approach things than actually driving the car 200s quicker. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.